So, hi everyone who are still here. Welcome to our 7th week of Once You're Here. Um, so, today we're going to talk about student groups. This is something I think has come up a lot of times repeatedly, and I think it should be very short, really. But after that, we can have time for follow-up questions. Okay, so okay. Is everyone being able to see this? I hope so.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the types of student groups. So you come to college and then you'll see that a lot of people are doing like a lot of things on the side. So what could those things possibly be? So what kind of student organizations are there in an university? So first of all, there are academic and educational organizations. There is Physics Society, Biomedical Engineering Society, BMES. There is Society of Women Engineers. There is Society for Female Physicists, Society of Black Scientists. So there are lots of academic and educational organizations. The ones that I've seen in Columbia, for example, the physics group, they used to get together once a week and read a paper together. So they were like a bunch of really nerdy people who would do that, but that was great. They did some great stuff. Some of these academic programs also have some community service aspect to it. For example, they do outreach programs to teach high school students, underrepresented minority students, and sort of help them navigate science, STEM, college, etc. There are other community service organizations which primarily basically just gather donations and channel those donations to different places. There are Engineers Without Borders, which is it's an engineering community, but also it's a community service organization where they would send you to like Rwanda, Uganda, like many African countries where a lot of healthcare work needs to be done or a lot of technological gap exists. So a lot of my friends have had amazing time with Doctors Beyond Borders or Engineers Beyond Borders. Those are more like community service organizations. There are media and publication organizations like at Columbia. Columbia has Columbia has 4 newspapers of its own, and it also has like a bunch of other smaller magazines that are not. So there's Columbia Spectator, which is a daily issue. It's printed every single day. So you can work for the Spectator, and it's like everything that's related to Columbia, the world, and everything. And they're like funnier. We actually did not have a morning shows type stuff, Samia, but we did have a radio channel. Columbia had a radio channel that you could tune into like in the mornings. It was run by like a small group of students. So that kind of media things exist. And we even had we had magazines. We had the I forgot the name of that magazine, the Blue and White, I think, BWOG, BWOG, Blue and White organization, I think. So that's something we had. We had a satirical newspaper. It was called The Fed, and it was very funny. It was like a comedy newspaper. But Columbia Journalism School was great. So like there are lots of publications coming out just within Columbia every single day. But those many people who have continued to work for like Columbia Spectator and stuff like that, if they were interested in media and journalism, they went on to get jobs in like the Times and like big or went for law school or journalism school and things like that. There are political and multicultural organizations. Political organizations can be like there can be a Democrat group, there can be a Republican group. The Democrat groups often would invite Democrat speakers to come speak. some Republican groups would invite Republican speakers to speak. Most people at Columbia were Democrats, thankfully. And about multicultural organizations, oh my God, there were so many. There was the Chinese Student Organization, Bengali Student Association, Muslim Student Association. Well, I guess that comes under religious and spiritual, but like other multicultural would be like Southeast Asian Student Group, Malama Hawaii. There were so many. There were so many of the like so many different cultures that were celebrated on campus. There were recreation and sports organizations. This included like rock climbing groups. There was a hiking group. There was a boating group. There were, and obviously there were like official university athlete teams. Those were swimming, basketball, soccer, and like fencing, hockey, ice hockey, all these things, right? So okay, so then comes performing arts groups. Performing arts groups was, we had dance, music, we had painting clubs, we had so many different performing arts groups. There was something called the lion dance, we had belly dance, we had so many different South Asian groups. And then it was just a very, very vibrant in terms of performing art groups. Then there's student government organizations. So what are student government organizations? Student government organizations basically are like student government. Most universities have organizations like this, but Columbia, I think, is one of those where student life is very, very vibrant. I feel like Yale doesn't have as vibrant a student life as Columbia. Or I think even Cornell for that matter, but that might just be our exposure to these different things. I think Columbia is a very, very vibrant campus among all the places I've been. Student government organizations. So I was talking about student government. So basically you have all the students, like you have thousands of students in a university, and student government basically works on different levels. They deal with funding. They sometimes deal with voicing opinions. So student government officers are basically the middle person between the university administration and the students, and they basically just communicate. They raise concerns about the students to administration, and these are also students themselves. And the administrations and the student government, like the administration cannot do anything without the student government's approval or input, which is why it makes the student government is basically like a student union that makes sure that the administration cannot ever impose like a policy that will be harmful for the students. And then there are religious and spiritual organizations. So like I said, there is Muslim Student Association. They would celebrate like all Eid, the two Eids, Shab-e Barat, and all these like major Muslim festivals. And we would have HSO, Hindu Student Organization, which would have weekly kirtans, like all like Hindu. They would celebrate like Navratri. They would celebrate Saraswati Puja, and so there is MSA, HSO, there are other ones, there are Jewish organizations, there are Buddhist organizations, and so many others, like you name it, we probably have gotten. And last but not the least, we have Greek life. This is something we've talked about before. It's about Greek life consists of various sororities and fraternities, which is also a type of student group. They're funded separately. They have a different dynamic. It's more, but they also are very, like, people who are involved in Greek life often say that they really liked it. I think Mir Fayaz, one of our speakers who came here 2 weeks back, or last week, previous week, he said that he was part of a fraternity and that he really enjoyed it. So anyway, so these are the different kinds of student groups that you can expect to see. So how do you get to know about them? So when you go into an university, how do you know what group you want to join? So first of all, one thing is the university website. If you go to the university website, then try to click on something like campus life or student organizations, and over there eventually you might get directed to like a long list of like the different approved student organizations that are part of the university. You can just do a simple Facebook search. So if you got accepted to Columbia University and if you're looking for like ballroom dance, you can just search of Columbia Ballroom and their Facebook page would come up, like Columbia Ballroom Dance or Columbia Dance. So any titles matching, any page titles matching that would come up, and you can look at it and see if it's really in Columbia and if it's really part of that. So that's kind of how I found the dance group that I've been part of for 4 years, Columbia Tal. And you can also get to know about them through personal connections. So ask a friend always, like in your first year, like, what are you doing? What clubs are you planning to join? I'm interested in so and so. Do you know anyone? So that always helps. And usually every year, beginning of every single year, first year, second year, third year, fourth year, there is an activity fair where basically it's literally like a fair where each organization has a table. They are like branding their organization, they're advertising that. You basically just walk by and you can see the different organizations that are available to you and you can sign up, right? You can just put down your email and they will get back in touch with you. So that's one of the most efficient ways of finding out about organizations and getting connected to them. Okay, so which ones should you join, right? So definitely join a student organization that gives you joy. Like, don't just do it because other people are doing it. Do it because you like whatever they do. Make sure it has a manageable work commitment. If it's a particular semester when you're doing a lot, then you have to make sure that you can juggle like the study and your other work, and if you're TAing that, if you're researching everything, and make sure that that can fit into your schedule. I would always add something like that adds positively to your resume, although sometimes like that doesn't make sense. Like my entire career resume is about science, biology. I've done other biology stuff, but one of my major ECAs have always been dance. Sometimes it may not be possible to combine the two and find a student organization that necessarily adds to your academic interest, but you can definitely try that. And definitely joining a student organization, join one that you're friends in, or you may not have friends in, but you think the people are friendly and you can build meaningful connections over the years. So why should you join the group? Aren't you just going there to study? Shouldn't your focus be just like maintaining a good GPA? No, ECAs are always important. As some of you already know, like when you're applying to American universities, a lot of us struggle with, oh my God, I don't have ECAs, what do I do, right? And that struggle never ends. Like after college, when you apply for jobs, no one is going to want to take someone who is so like linear, they just studied, they went to class, they got out of class, they have a perfect GPA, but nothing else. Nobody is going to want to kind of see that. So you basically have to make sure that you're still continuing to groom yourself into this well-rounded individual who is versatile in multiple areas and fields and has had exposure to different kinds of experiences. And that is a good motivator for employers and grad schools to choose you over other applicants. It also gives you a break from classes, because how long can you like studying, right? And I think for me personally, if I've seen this a lot, and I'm particularly struggling now during the lockdown. I have noticed that if I'm dancing, if I'm busy doing a lot of other ECAs, I also tend to like my performance in the academic life also tends to increase, and it's better, and I'm more focused. And if all I'm doing is like studying, I tend to lose focus, I tend to lose interest, and which is why so you can sort of like, doing this workshop was kind of like an ECA to me, because like a lot of the other things that I normally do are like halted right now. So this was great for me, like conducting this workshop to keep myself busy and keep myself occupied in some way else. And it has been a pleasure so far. So you should definitely join student organizations for all of these reasons. So here I have a very rudimentary chart for the things that I have done during my time at Columbia. So first of all, you can see Columbia Tal, that was my dance group. I've been there throughout all 4 years. During is like basically 1, 2, 3, 4 means I've been there throughout years 1, 2, 3, 4. And it was a huge commitment. It was 8+ hours per week and more hours during show season. During show season, there would be weeks where I would spend more than 20 hours like dancing. And sometimes we would go and travel to other cities, right? So we would go to Boston to perform at Harvard. We would go sometimes to the other local universities within New York, like Stony Brook, or we would go to, what else have we been to? I can't remember. But yeah, there are so many other CUNYs. We've been to Hunter College. We've been to Queens College, maybe. So Harvard to Bollam, that we went to Boston, yeah, to perform at Harvard. So yeah, so sometimes we would travel, and so that would also be a lot of time commitment. And yeah, so I love Tal. I am still very much part of Tal, like in essence, although I am not in Columbia anymore, so I can't be part of Columbia anymore. Although this is funny because I love that dance group so much that I almost considered, staying on at Columbia to do my PhD. And one of the deciding points, one of the pros about Columbia was that I still get to be part of the dance group. So that's how much I love dance, and that's how much it definitely affected my decision about anything. I was also part of Columbia Raga for a while. It was also performing arts, but it was basically Indian classical music. So this is Indian classical dance and Indian classical music. These are the two groups, Columbia Tal and Columbia Raga. There are more like a cappella groups at Columbia as well. There's Sur. There is a lot of other a cappella. So Sur is the South Asian a cappella. There are lots of other a cappella like Metronomes, the Clefhangers, and a lot of other ones. And yeah, so I was a vocalist and in Raga, and it was only a seasonal commitment. If they were doing something, if they were invited for a show, I would often go and sing, or I would just help them, just plan their program. And they've been like the Raga people, they are very talented artists. There's a sitar player, there's a tabla player, there are multiple other people, and they're like all so amazing. And they would be like, they have always been willing to help me put together a music performance. I don't sing that well, but there aren't a lot of people who can sing Bengali songs, so whatever I could do was welcome. I was also part of activities board. This is something I really enjoyed. So it's a form of student government that regulates funding, the funding that each student organization gets. So I was the academic representative. So I was in charge of, basically voicing the needs for all the academic groups. Academic groups included BMES, society, like the physics society, the chemistry society, all the different like academic groups that had an academic focus. And I was the one in charge of like their budgeting and kind of like figuring out how much money they need and if they're getting that money, and regulating that money as well. So they were answerable to me, like, I gave you this money, what did you spend it on? Did you host enough events during the year? If not, then I would be cutting your funding. So yeah, it's a position of power whenever it's dealt with money. But I really had a lot of fun working there, and I sort of learned a lot during that time. Yeah, so it was a 3-hour commitment. It wasn't a lot of time, but definitely a lot of thought went into that. And this is Amlan's ECAs. Oh my God, Amlan's ECAs, and he can talk about them a little bit.
Okay, good. So আমার এতটা diverse background নয় সত্যির মতন, but I'll still try to
Your video is off, by
talk
the
about
way.
it. All right. Um, আচ্ছা, so basically আমার art side খুবই দুর্বল, as you can probably tell. Um, project team এ ছিলাম অনেকগুলো করোনায় থাকতে. So I put them under project team, but they took up most of my time outside of class. And that would be an academic ECA, if anything. So project team key, if you guys have not heard me rant about it before, it's student teams that work on a certain product. Um, so Cornell has a very good project team culture, যেটা অন্য ইউনিভার্সিটিতে পাবো না. It's a really popular thing as an engineering student to do, and it's very competitive to get into. So not all students can get into a project team, but once you do, it's really good. Um, and so I've been on 2 project teams, and I've been a co-sub team lead for one of them. So as a lead, you get to recruit people, and you get to make certain decisions on what the project. So project team, most of the project teams have competitions that they work towards. So আমাদের ছিল একটা, and as a sub team lead, you get to make calls on what the team does, right? Um, but it is also a lot of work. It's about 10 hours a week. My highest during the recruitment or the competition season, and I was part of the team since my second year, since the second semester of second year.
So this is
আরেকটা
the
একটা
autonomous sailboat team, right? CU Sail.
I was a co-team lead of co-sub team lead of autonomous sailboat, but I was also just a member of um, the spacecraft group, which was not really a project team, but it was like a student group. Anyways, so আরেকটা যেটা করছিলাম সেটা হচ্ছে International Student Union. সৈদিকে থেকে inspired হয়ে I was like, I should also explore other things that I can do in my free time. So I tried out the International Student Union for a bit. Um, I was just a member, nothing fancy, but we used to basically get together, and so people of different, you get to meet people from different, get to meet people, meet international students from different backgrounds. So that was a good learning experience. I got to meet people from Ghana, let's see, Brazil, Russia. There's a lot of, you get to meet a bunch of different people, and আমাদের কয়েকটা event হইতো, which was basically different cultural events. So we had an event where people from different cultures would come and set up the booths. Sometimes they used to have food from different cultures. So African খাবার দাবার, Russian খাবার দাবার, whatever they could avail. Cornell it's in the middle of nowhere, so there's not a lot of stores or anything. বা যা বানাইতে পারে বা যা করতে পারে, and it was good. It was good to meet different cultural backgrounds, people from different cultural backgrounds. You get to learn a lot and taste different foods, so it's amazing. um, but I did not, so I thought doing the project teams or investing more time in project teams would be a better or good use of, but I'm not someone who explores the other sides or like the other sides of myself as much, so I stuck to project teams for the rest of the undergraduate years. এই তো শেষ
Yeah.
my
So,
not so diverse ECA background.
yeah, so I'd be happy to answer
Questions?
any questions.
No.
No,
I
Sami,
wanted to say this as Shweti was describing student government. It's nothing like Chhatra League or Chhatra
Doll.
Dol. I hope I don't get killed for this, but it's nothing like that. It's very, it's more civilized politics. Let's just put it that way.
It's more like a discussion of different ideas. Once it was pretty, so remember, like, so Columbia is a mostly Democratic campus, but there are some Republican supporters. So the day that Trump was elected, I was in my second year. People flocked to the center of the campus and they were just hugging each other and crying. And that was such a sad scene. Um, so a few days after that, basically, this Republican group invited this Republican speaker, and the university administration was definitely okay with it. And why would not they be okay? Yes, you may not agree with someone, but that doesn't mean that you have any right to prevent their freedom of speech, right? They might be saying things that you don't agree with, but you still have to kind of allow them to speak. So this Republican speaker came to the campus, and some of the Democrat students got pretty aggressive. So they walked into the to this speech session, the talk, and they disrupted the talk and basically, I don't know, maybe threw things at him and like started yelling at him and didn't let him finish. So then the next time when a Republican speaker was invited, the Columbia police, and this is also something that you're probably not familiar with in Bangladesh, but every university has their own police. So Columbia police, Yale police, they're very, very sincere and they're very protective of the students. So Columbia police was there to make sure that this this speaker is not harmed, right? And there were like student protests like all over campus being like, why is Columbia shielding a Republican speaker who has made like questionable, controversial statements before? So that was the only like aggression that I've seen. Other than that, it hasn't ever been. Even in the time of Trump, it hasn't been that bad. Samia, how are the theaters in Cornell and Columbia? So do you mean like university theaters or do you mean outside theaters? So I can talk about Columbia. At Columbia, Columbia has its own school of drama, and it's also very competitive. It's very hard to get in, and they have their own shows happening like at multiple times over the years. And all these shows are usually they're performed in Miller Theater at Columbia. Yeah, so it's not just a drama club, Samia. So these people are very serious, and they are basically drama is like a department and it's a major, and a lot of renowned theater artists and Hollywood artists, they come from this major institutional drama departments. So Yale School of Drama is one of the most like renowned drama programs in art theater programs in the country. So is Columbia. Yeah, so there are theaters like that. There are smaller theaters by students, which are like more like clubs, and those are more fun and less in terms of quality because the students do this on the side as opposed to people who are professionals who do it. But one thing about New York is you get to see Broadway shows. I have had the opportunity to watch a few Broadway shows for free, and that was it was life-changing to be able to witness a Broadway performance. They're so good. So if you can afford it or if you can get a free ticket, definitely it's worth it to at least see one Broadway show in your life. Labiba asked, how are the sports streams? Do I have to be an athlete to get in or is it casual? So there are different kinds of sport teams, Labiba. So there are like official university athletic teams, and those are very like the people there, they got in on an athletic scholarship, like they have very rigorous like training schedules. Their coaches basically rule their life. Like studying is almost secondary to them. Like the university makes them like work out and perform in the field so hard, but there are also more casual clubs. For example, if you just want to just hang out and just have fun, there are smaller they're still official student organizations, but they're not the official university team. So as long as you're not part of the university team and if you want it to be casual, there are other activity groups that you can do. Like there are people who go hike, there are people who just play football on Thursdays. There are also local groups. It doesn't also have to be in the university. There are like, for example, you want to play football, and like there would be like a local
There
group.
there are
Fine.
there are intramural groups in every university where you can, let's say you can group together with a few of your friends and start a team. So তোমার ফুটবল খেলতে ভালো লাগে, you can start a team and can play other teams. And there's cups and everything, there are tournaments, intramural tournaments, and so there's always option for that if you want to do it as a recreational thing.
So I'll answer both the question. I'll answer Samia's question first. So Samia asked, are they hard to get in with science major? I'm assuming that you're asking about the drama club. So I'm assuming that if you're a science major, you're not also a drama major. So that's a different thing. Like the drama department is different, right? But if you want to get into a drama club, it doesn't matter what major you are, they will take an audition. And if you pass that audition, then you're in. For like the dance teams, I had to audition. Even for the like music team, I had to audition. Everyone auditions, and if you pass the audition, then you're in. If you're in a team, does it hamper your studies since it kind of rules their lives? So yes, it does rule their lives. Sometimes it does hamper your studies, but the coaches in these institutions sometimes have a lot of power, right? So if you failed to like pass in a course, and if that's a degree requirement that like if you were any other student in the university would be like, I will not give you the degree, but the coach can convince like the department or write a letter to the department being like, this person has been an invaluable addition to my team and please consider their academics. So the coach has a lot of power. But you also have to keep in mind that the people who are athletes, they kind of have gotten in through the athletic scholarship. So in order to finance their education, they have to kind of be part of and that's contingent upon whether or not you are part of the athletic team. They're going to cancel that scholarship if you get out of the team. So it's kind of their like support, the academic life and the athletic life are kind of supported by each other in that case. Rubayat, as like dance clubs, did you have recitation clubs? There were poetry societies, if I remember correctly. I don't know if they recited or if they wrote poetry, but that was very nice. I'll tell you about an experience. So this is not a student government or student organization, but so this one day, this was at Yale, right? New Haven is a very tight-knit, it's a small city, it's a very tight-knit community. So one day I was like at the shop. It was one of my favorite coffee shops before everything closed down. It's called Coffee with a K. And so I went into coffee and I sat down and I was working there because I really liked the coffee there and I needed to get some stuff done. Like I had my finals the next day, right? And suddenly there was this like group of like poets who happened to gather there and they were sharing their pieces of writing. And I was studying, but I was also listening to them. And that was one of the like, it was a very wholesome experience for me. I've never seen a poet society, you know, kind of share their poetry. And it was so nice. It was so soothing. And yeah, I was a little distracted from my studying, but like I thought it was a very lively experience for me. Samin asked, is there any chance of getting into any forum or club for learning skills from there? I don't know how to dance, but I wanted to do so. And for that, I wanted to join. Okay. So this is something that definitely, so.
Be truthful.
Yeah, I will be truthful. So this is something that has been very like debated and frowned upon because, for example, TAL, right? It's a team, but it will not accept anyone. It only accepts like trained dancers, although they advertise that no prior experience necessary, you know? I think that there are definitely teams that will not accept like an amateur, but some of these teams, they sometimes do workshops for people who don't know. how to dance, and you can definitely sign up for those. There are also like intro dance classes, like at least at Columbia, there was intro ballet, there was intro Bharatanatyam, there was intro, like all these dance classes that you can sign up for. And so the dance department at Columbia is basically the Barnard dance department, and it's a very good dance department. So you can take classes with the dance department if you were interested. Um, yeah, so, and I think there are other clubs for skill buildings which are more academic in kind, but for the dance ones, the issue with the dance performing arts is that they are usually competitive. So these teams like Columbia, for example, they're not exactly competitive, but the Harvard show that we go to, that's pretty competitive. So we perform like 4 hour, like we perform so hard, we practice so hard before like the Harvard performance. And I think last year, or yeah, last year, I think they won the award for the best choreography. And so, you know, so if they're eyeing those awards, they don't want to, you know, admit amateurs into the group. So there is like this conflict of interest, but the student government hate that, because they're like, we fund you to be able to spread your ideas into among everyone, so you should do that. So it's an ongoing conversation, and maybe in the future people will change how they manage these groups. Samin asked, if I have some ideas to create a forum or club that doesn't exist in that college, can I? Absolutely. And if you are the founder of a club, that definitely adds a lot of things to your resume, because people see that as you are a creator of opportunities. You're someone who agrees to work to fill that gap if it hasn't already been filled. So if you can, and if you spot like a gap, and if you can convince the authorities to fund, sure, go for it. So I think that's the end of questions. We happen to end on time today. Okay.
Was that a question for me? Okay, Samia. হ্যাঁ, মানে I'll not try to give us a diplomatic answer as Shohit did. You need to have prior experience for project teams. It's one of those things যেখানে মানে prior experience না থাকলেও you need to be familiar with actually prior experience মানে থাকলে ভালো. So like মানে কি, for example ধরো let's say I'm trying to work for the car team, right? The picture that I had last time, yesterday. যারা একটা গাড়ি বানায়, it's a racing car, and if you have experiences working as a mechanic, so let's say you have experience welding, you've experienced CADing, or you have experienced 3D printing, that helps. Then you're sure to get it. এছাড়াও without prior experience, I won't say that you don't get in. It's just very, very, very difficult. It's way more difficult to get in. But that's not true. That's not true everywhere. Cornell project teams are more competitive. I've seen other universities যেখানে it's not. It's really not that competitive because people don't want to do that because their team are not great. If you show skills, that will definitely help. Yes. Yes. They will have interview processes most likely. Great. Yes. Arduino helps. So pick a team that works with Arduino. Though FSAE does not work or does not do a lot of work with Arduino. But let's say আমাদের team যেটা ছিল, the sailboat team, if we see that you had Arduino experience, you'll probably be ahead of most people there. It's not, I don't think it's up there, Loiva. Zoom sessions upload, we say, right?
No, I haven't done that yet. I have just been
We'll do
thrown
that
around in things, but
sometime.
we will be. It's not your fault. It's definitely my fault. I record them on my computer and I forget to upload. And it's not that I've forgotten. It's just it takes a while, and I haven't had time to do that in the last 2 weeks. It's been very busy. But
Okay, so
yeah, I'll do that
let's
soon.
take off today. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
All right, see you next week. Good night.